I got into graffiti culture roughly when I was about 14 or 15 years old when I lived in Los Angeles. I got into a couple of tagging crews and ran around with a spray can and doing my graffiti tags around town. In my 20s I was in Los Angeles and I kind of got into skateboarding and all that whole culture of skateboarding and hip hop and all that is really tied into the whole graffiti and street art background. I think the first time I kind of landed on street art was seeing some of Banksy's work online many years ago and really loving it, loving the idea of putting art outside. I was invited by the Borås Museum to do an exhibition here at U Gallery at the museum. My initial reaction to this was kind of shocked because it is very abnormal for museums to, specifically a museum in Sweden, to kind of open their doors up for urban street art graffiti background artists. It's kind of funny that the mural happened to happen around the same time as the museum show, because I think both of them are equally important. Here in this setting, I get to bring the outdoor side of me inside and kind of, put it in a setting where it can be a little educational, and I can have the time to explain things and tell stories and kind of dive deep into why I paint what I paint and let people take the time to read about it. Outdoors, I don't really get to do that. You kind of just tend to paint, and people will come and see you paint and kind of, make their own assumptions or judgments about what they think it means or why you're doing what you're doing. I don't necessarily feel like outdoor work needs explanation. The days that I was outdoors painting, people kept asking if it's okay to take a photo. And I kept telling people, it's your mural, it's not mine. I may be the guy putting it up, but at the end of the day, this painting belongs to the city. It's the community's piece. And I feel the same way with every other piece that I put up. It's once I put it up, it becomes a little gift for the city. It becomes a little piece that's added to it. So I basically approached this exhibition in a manner that it should be educational. I didn't want to just come and slap art on the wall. I chose to kind of make it almost an exhibition of teaching for all generations, as well as kind of tell my stories. Most of my pieces, they all kind of tie into a story of some sort, and they all kind of want to tell a story or be a part of a story, and I kind of wanted this exhibition itself to be a story as well. In this instance, we have a police officer holding a paint roller who actually, it gives the impression that I've been buffed out basically meaning, in the sense of doing tags or street art outdoors illegally. The city will spend quite a bit of money on trying to paint over the graffiti with usually what's supposed to be the same shade color as the wall that the graffiti was on, but 90% of the time tends to be the wrong shade. So the idea behind painting a police car that, basically kind of breaks into graffiti is kind of, in an ironic way, vandalizes the very authority that kind of constantly tries to cover up our work. And in this instance, we're covering them up, and in a reversed way, rather than over there being buffed out over my painting. But it is a very real fight and debate that as artists who want to create art outdoors are challenged because, advertising is out there almost on every corner, and its sole purpose is to create a profit, where us as artists, we try to create art to beautify the city.
kind of funny, like everybody says, oh, you know, the dollar horses, they're from Dalarna. These dollar horses, the realistic ones, will be known as the dollar horses from Borås. You know, the dollar horse feels like it's such like a cultural stamp here in Sweden. I mean, when I first came to Sweden, even to visit the first few times, that was one of the things I noticed more than anything. It's like you find those not only at like your local shops and gift shops and stuff, but you end up finding them at like you know, the grandmother's house, the parents' house, you know. And it was one of those things that everybody knew what the dollar horses were, young and old. And I just fell in love with the idea of having something that, I don't know why, like, why there was such beauty in the fact that it's just a painted horse and it became such a cultural stamp here. It kind of brings the horses into this gray area where they're not too masculine, but they're not too feminine. And it's kind of it comes together really, really nicely when you put them in the street, because they suddenly become, they don't necessarily become signified with one or the other. They're kind of all around, which is really, really nice. It's fun. You know, I've only been here for about a year and a half, and majority of the times that I've painted these dollar horses or other things throughout Borås in Sweden have always been without permission. And to get a wall with permission, and on top of that, for that to be a wall that's sanctioned by the museum is really a fantastic move forward for, I think, the street art culture, but also as an artist, because you kind of feel like, you know, at some point you get tired of running around in the middle of the night putting up pieces illegally. It would get nice to where you can come out here during the daytime and be able to put something up. I remember painting at the museum when I was setting up, and a few like little kids walked up and they're like, "You're pretty good," and I'm like, "That's the most honest thing anybody has ever said to me as an artist." Like, they didn't say, "Wow, that's amazing," or "I don't like it." They were just like, "You're pretty good," you know. I was like, "Thank you." It's kind of nice to see the people who usually walk by here, who've gotten so used to just seeing white walls, all of a sudden see something stand out and really kind of makes them stop. It's kind of nice. I mean, you know, whether they like it or not, that's up to them, but the fact that it's different and it made them stop their normal routines is really, really nice. So I'm really happy. I hope that I can get granted to do much bigger and better walls all around the city and hopefully all around Sweden. I think that right now there is a change happening. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are talking about putting up legal graffiti walls or talking about, you know, whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea. But at the end of the day, the reaction I've seen from Borås at the mural while I was painting really took my breath away. I kind of see it as, you know, as long as there's walls, I'm going to keep putting them up.
I have slept under the horses for at least 5 nights.
No,
so I have nightmares.
You know them very well.
Nightmares.
now you'll see him here. Yeah. He's going to get confused. He's going to start sleeping down here. Wait, this isn't his house? What's going on?
That would be nice.